Hello, freight broker family. I hope you're well today. I hope your families are well. Yesterday, I talked with you about moving some easy freight to establish some easy wins in our business so we can get that confidence. We identified that easy freight as being full truckload pick and drops. Get that confidence built so we can keep moving forward. Now, today I want to talk to you about making money. Because we know as a new freight brokerage, one of the most important things that we have to do is start earning revenue. And margins are tight when we first get started because we haven't quite figured it out just yet. Now we need to identify some freight that's going to give us the chance to make the largest margins, right? So what type of freight is that? Well, in today's video, I am going to reveal the freight that you need to identify, the freight that you need to start moving in order to make the biggest profit margins. And the type of freight that I'm going to introduce you to is going to be no pressure freight, right? You're not going to have to worry yourself about, oh man, what if I don't get it moved? What's the shipper's going to think? And most importantly, moving this type of freight will position you to get even more business from the shipper. And the reason why that is because you will have brought immense value to the shipper at the time that they needed the most. So big kudos come with that. So come on inside, sit back, relax, and I'll share with you the freight that's going to get the money rolling. Now, our main objective in a freight broker business is to start making money. Because if we don't make money, we don't stay in business, right? But we don't have the skill set just yet. We haven't figured out the pricing piece. We don't know how to price loads. And when you don't know how to price loads, guess what happens then? Your profit margins suffer. Your profit margins will be very slim when you first get started, probably less than 10%. A lot of times you'll break even and sometimes you won't make any money at all. So we have to figure out the pricing piece as quickly as possible. Now, there are some loads that will help you with pricing. It'll take the pressure off of you so you won't have to be so price conscious. You don't have to go in thinking right off the top, hey, I got to cut price. Because you know that's how we do it. We go in and we get a price. And the first thing that we start doing is saying, how can I make this price more attractive to the shipper? And usually that comes with shaving it. We start shaving that price so we can bring a better price in our minds to the shipper. But what we have to understand is our own profit margins suffer when we do that. So what type of freight do we move so that we don't have to worry so much about price? The type of freight I'm referencing is last minute freight. What is last minute freight? Well, you know, in the trucking industry, in the freight broker world, there will always be cancellations. Truck drivers, freight brokers cancel on shippers from time to time because they can't get coverage or something may have happened with that truck and he can't provide the assistance anymore. He may have had a longer detention time at another stop. So he can't get to that next load on time. So they have to cancel. Now the shipper is holding the bag and they need someone to help them out of the jam that they're in. That's where you come in at. You want to make sure that you get on a shipper's email list so that when they have cancellations, they can send you an email and say, hey, Brandon, we need you to help us cover this load. Do you have any resources available, any assets in this lane? And that's the perfect time for you, right? Because that shipper needs you now. That shipper is in a position where they have a load and they still have to get that load to the customer. And now it's at the last minute. And you know what happens at the last minute? Price is no longer a concern. The most important part now is the load needs to get moved. So the shipper is not so sharpening the pen on the price. They are going to more so be focused on, can you get coverage? And yes, you can come in and get coverage in those situations, and it's not going to be a pressure situation because when they ask you, hey, do you have any assets available? You're just going to say, hey, let me take a look at it. I'll go and check in and see what we have available, but I'm pretty sure that we might be able to get coverage in this lane. So then you can go out and start looking for trucks and you give the price based on it's a last minute load. All shippers understand that when you're moving loads at the last minute, the price is not going to be the same as it would have been if you had 7 days or 5 days or 3 days to move that load. Last minute loads automatically come with a higher price. And also another great thing about last minute loads is, remember earlier, I told you that shipper needs you now. That shipper is saying, man, this is the last minute. I still need to get this load moved. who can help me out of this jam. And when you come in and provide a service under those conditions and you move that load, that's big kudos to you, because the shipper says, man, I was in a jam and this person is who came with a truck at the last minute. So they're very likely to move more loads with you now. So this is the type of load that we want to identify. We want to get on that shipper's email list so that we can provide assistance during last minute situations. Now, how would I suggest that you get on a shipper's email list? Well, it's a part of your sales process. How I usually try and get on my shipper's email list is I say, hey, this is Brandon over at Alliance Logistics. I wanted to give you a quick buzz today to find out, what do you guys usually do when you have cancellations? How can I get on your email list so that we can provide trucks when you need them at the last minute? If you notice, I said, what do you guys usually do when you have cancellations? And then I said, how can I get on your list? I'm asking open-ended questions so that that shipper will have to talk to me. I am trying to get them to talk so that I can ask other questions, follow-up questions. So you might want to have questions written down. Yes, you're trying to get on the last-minute list, but at the same time, you're trying to get to do business with this shipper. So you want to have some follow-up questions written down. You're not just going in it and only planning just to move the last-minute freight. That's just your way of getting in. That's your way of showing that you have a familiarity with the space. So when a shipper sees that, it's like, you know, how I look at it is when somebody calls me on a sales call, right? If they don't say something early on to get my attention, something that resonates, something that I can relate to, then I'm moving that person to the end of that call as quickly as possible. But if you say something that I say, maybe I can see some value in what they're trying to talk to me about, then I might even listen further. In my experience, shippers usually work the same way. If I call up a shipper and I don't say something very early on in that call to get that shipper's attention, something that they say, hey, I can see value in what this guy's saying, something that say, oh, I can relate to what he's saying, they are very likely going to move you to the end of that call as quickly as possible. Now, you probably heard how they usually move you to the end of that call. They use phrases like, we don't work with freight brokers. That doesn't mean that they don't work with freight brokers. It probably means that they don't want to work with you. Or they say something like, we're customer routed. Or they could say, we have our own trucks. I'm sure you've heard shippers say some of that. Well, that's because you didn't say something to get their attention early on. Shippers have cancellations. Most of them do. Matter of fact, all shippers have cancellations if they work with freight brokers and carriers. So starting a sales call like this gives you an opportunity to say something relatable and also gives you the chance to make the biggest profit with the least amount of pressure. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I certainly hope this information has been helpful. If you want to learn more about the freight broker business, I'll leave a free link in the description. It's my 5-video series, and it's titled How the Load Movement Process Works. It gives you a chance to come into the office with me and watch me as I talk to shippers, talk to carriers. That way you can get a better understanding of how the business works before you come into it. And just in case you missed my video yesterday where I talked about the easiest freight that new freight brokers can move to establish the confidence that you need to keep moving your business forward, I'll leave a free video right here. So until the next time, I wish you the very best in your life and business. See you at the top, because the bottom is much too crowded.